Hey everybody, welcome to the Gapology Guys Podcast. This is your resource for leadership development and everything regarding our series of leadership books. You can learn more about them, our leadership workshops that we offer, and anything else Gapology related on our website, gapology.org. And tonight we're diving into a critical element that all winning leaders carefully craft within their leadership rhythm. We're talking about habits, good ones. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Hey Mark, how are you doing?
Good, Brian. How's it going?
I'm good. I just had a busy evening. So, after work every night now, I'm trying to start a new habit.
Yeah, it's an important thing to do.
Yeah.
What was your habit tonight?
This habit is getting off my butt and going for a walk after work.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Jolieanne's, she's all about working out. She works out a couple hours every day. She's like a maniac, and she's finally convinced me to pick it up again. I probably have already mentioned that I'm trying to do this over and over again on this podcast, but this time we've been doing pretty good. So
we are what we do.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah, for sure.
So our habits truly define us.
Mm-hmm.
So
they absolutely do. And I think this would be a good topic tonight, actually. What do you think?
Yeah. Did you read that Aristotle quote? We are what we repeatedly do.
Yeah, I saw that.
Think about that. So excellence, if we're thinking about our leadership, our performance, excellence is not an act, it's a habit. It's created by habits. And you and I found that in our research for Gapology, that the leaders that dominated were clearly driven by their habits. They were very habitual. Unfortunately, the leaders that failed were habitual as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it works both ways. So we truly are what we repeatedly do.
Yeah, for sure. And there are good habits, bad habits, and I think there's a lot of things that go into this. And I think our habits, they're impacted by so many different things. So I think this could be a good topic to go through today. And for leaders out there that are really struggling with consistency in your results, I think this is a great place to start.
Yeah. And again, it works both ways. It's a great reminder to leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a client who changed her habits in terms of who she changed her group of associates, who she associated with, from a group that went out to dinner and drinking to a group that ran marathons. And when they changed who they associated with, their habits changed, their daily routine changed, and it changed their life. And so anyhow, habits are a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we always told our boys, when they were young, you become your friends.
Oh, wow.
So
write that down.
Yeah.
Do we have that t-shirt?
We don't have that one. I know that.
That's a good one. Who came up with that?
I'm sure Jolieanne did. It wasn't.
I have never heard that.
Yeah.
It is absolutely correct.
It totally is.
So say it again.
You become your friends.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, so true.
Yep. They have such a strong influence. Once kids are at a certain age, their parents become less of that primary influence, and their friends become that voice that they hear in their head.
Well, and if your phone is your only friend,
oh yeah,
your screen time skyrockets, and that's who you become. And there's not a lot of good that comes with that.
Right.
Think about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we learned, so in Gapology, when we wrote Gapology, we really we discovered Gapology as a comparison between this top performing group, the top 10%, and the bottom performing group, the bottom 10%. And we called them the A group and the C group. And we learned so much from their behavior. And it was habitual. The A group, the top 10%, had a serious group of habits, and the bottom 10%, the C group, had either a serious group of habits that were not effective or an inconsistency in habits.
Mhm.
And the results were dramatically different. And we wrote a book called Gapology all about that, truly about, if you just step back, about habits. So habits matter.
Mhm.
So the top performing group had incredibly consistent habits that drove their results.
Mhm. Yeah, I'd say the bottom group, they're very consistent in not having habits, which created their inconsistency. They just didn't
Yeah,
have a regular routine. And when we talk about leadership rhythm, which we talk about a lot, they had no rhythm. They had no habits, things that they could look to as proven processes that produced proven results.
yeah, yeah. So back in the A group, C group analysis, we really looked at results week by week, and it's good to look at results short term so that you're creating habits that create results. And we found that we weren't good at math, I guess. So we found that there's 168 hours in the week. Shocker! Wow, didn't know that. 7 times 24, and the A group knew that and used them to their advantage and created incredible weeks and sort of viewed the week as, the season, the result, the NBA game, the NFL game, whatever it might be.
Mhm.
And they made the most of it and they knew how to craft the 168 into a series of habits that created a winning result every week,
Mhm.
every single week. It's amazing when you hold yourself accountable to the week, how it changes everything.
Mhm.
And the C group didn't know about this and didn't do it, and just let it come. Hoped it was passed. I'm sure.
Mhm. For
Let's get
sure.
past this week.
Yeah.
Maybe next week will be better, but it's all driven by habit. So if you really focus on the 168 and how you spend your 168, it is a quite interesting analysis. So how
Mhm.
much time do you sleep? You need 8 hours times 7, 56. How much screen time are you doing? Can you reduce that? How much time are you spending one-on-one with your team teaching and coaching? How much time are you spending with your family in very productive events? So anyhow, the 168 is this opportunity that we're given every week. And we found that the top performers understood that. They may not have spoken in those terms, but they understood it and they took advantage of it, and the bottom performing group didn't understand it and
I
didn't
think
leverage.
I think that's so interesting, Mark. When you're thinking about just the time that you spend with certain segments of your life, that screen time, you had mentioned this to me earlier today about the screen time, and so I looked up my screen time on my phone. I pulled it up. It's almost 5 hours a day. I'm like, I don't recall spending that much time looking at my screen on my phone. It's crazy. And then I started thinking, that's just my phone. I have an iPad. I have a Mac that I work off of. I have another PC I work off. All these screens put together, I guarantee, well, I know for a fact that I spend more time with screens than I do with my wife, with my kids, my grandkids. It's like that's where my energy is going is to these screens. And if you think about in our leadership lives, are we reflecting on this? Are we spending our time on the things that matter most? Are we building habits around that? I think that's a,
Yeah,
a good question to ask.
yeah. I mean, in the virtual world today, and you're a virtual leader, um, you're going to have to spend time on screen with
Hmm.
your team, with people. It needs to be incredibly productive, incredibly focused, incredibly time sensitive and on purpose. And that would be a great effective use of the 168. But you got
Hmm.
to think about the 168. It's all you've got, by the way. There are not more than that in the week. You've got
Right.
this 168.
Yep.
What are you gonna do with it? How are you gonna make it effective? I mean, good habits compound results and bad habits compound bad results. And if
Mhm.
you factor that into the 168, you can truly become quite effective. It's good to have routines throughout the week, but they need to be the right routines. They need to drive your physical health, your mental health, your leadership, your time with the team. We found that A group, the top 10%, spent an incredible amount of time during their week teaching. Yeah, they're leaders of an organization, but they thought they were teachers and they taught throughout the week. So they grabbed out of that 168 a couple hours a day, maybe, for teaching, which changes the performance and the lives of their team. Think about how it compounds, how it filters through the group.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you are what you do. You are what you do. We wrote a book, MBAR, about identity, mindset, behavior, action, and results. It's really about habits. It's about how your identity and mindset dramatically impact your habits and can affect, in a big way, your your overall performance in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a great way to look at what are your current habits, so your current state in bar, and what are the habits that you need to develop your transformed state in bar, your transformed state that you're going after. Those habits might have to be dramatically different. So it's just a great way to analyze that.
Yeah, habits truly reflect
Mhm.
your mindset, how you think, your discipline, what you're focused on, and they create your future. They create your future. So your habits extend out from you into the future and they affect those around you. Imagine a parent with poor habits. Does that affect the children? Yes. Imagine a leader with poor habits. Does that affect the team? Yes. And the customers. So you've got to think about your habits. I recently read Atomic Habits. I did like that book. I found that it was aligned with MBAR, IMBAR, our book, which, reflected that as well. I started to think he must have read it when he wrote it. We wrote ours first, but either way, fantastic
Mhm.
view of habits and how they are in your control and how you can change everything with habits. And MBAR has changed many lives, and it's also really about that. It's about how to, you control your identity and your mindset, which create who you are and thus your habits. So
Mhm. Yeah. And I want to circle back for a second. You're mentioning that you impact your team. And I started thinking about, we had a podcast that we did. Well, we've done one on the 168. I looked it up. I think it was 2021. We actually talked about the 168 originally. But we did at one point, Mark, we talked about the downstream impact. Can't remember
yeah,
when that one was, but people can go back and search for that one if you'd like. But thinking about that, so as a leader, we have a responsibility for our downstream impact. We're put in sort of in charge of a group of people that our role is to help them grow and perform at their highest levels and so forth. And we do that through balancing direction and support with them. But think about that downstream impact that we have. If we don't have good habits, we're not providing them the clear direction and support that they need. We're not closing gaps. We're not focused on their identity and mindset and the behaviors that they do. I think it is a big responsibility for leaders to consider that.
I think leaders may not think about it.
Right.
and you need to think about it. I forget the exact year, maybe '02, '03, somewhere in there. I got promoted and ended up managing a market where you were working.
Hmm.
And so I was one of the leaders in that market, or the leader over that market. And I really came there to impact your behavior. You may have benefited from it most. You listened, you understood it. You were ahead of the group. But my habits, what I came with, would you say it impacted your life and
Oh,
your career?
yeah, 100% transformed everything.
Yeah. So we all have that ability. And then think of the hundreds of people you've impacted
Right. Yeah.
and it through your habits.
Hmm.
So it's very meaningful. And if you think the underperforming leaders don't impact the habits of their team, they do. They
Hmm.
expect so little often that they cause underperformance.
Right.
And so the habits of the leader matter, the habits of a parent matter. I could go on and on.
Right.
And so habits matter.
Hmm.
You think about it, they impact the team, they impact your family, they impact your friends. So who you associate with, who you align with, who you spend the 168 with matters.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And something that sort of occurred to me when you're talking about the underperformers, the underperforming leaders, think about the downstream impact they have on potentially winning team members on their
Yeah,
teams. That could be the greatest associate of all time, impacting customers at the highest levels. But if that leader isn't doing the right thing, they don't have the right habits that are going to drive those results and impact those potential top performers, you're really doing a disservice to those people.
yeah. We did a lot of analysis back in the retail world. We had 1,000 stores, and we found that the top performing leaders had the lowest attrition,
Yep. Yep.
less people left,
Right.
and that the bottom performing leaders had the highest attrition. And that's because in the same organization, they viewed it as there's no future here because of their leader. So what you're saying is absolutely correct.
Hmm.
I mean, habits truly impact, your mindset, your discipline, the things that you do, and they impact your future and the future of others. You cannot forget that. Um, it it plays out, in dramatic fashion. Back to the 168. So we looked at the 168 of the top performing leaders and found that they tended to get 8 hours of sleep, by the way. 7 seemed acceptable, but 8 was common. They had a workout routine, a physical routine. So they kept themselves physically in shape, to varying degrees, but at least, to a base level. They were readers, they read. So take screen time away and substitute reading can be of dramatic significance. Of course, we're promoting Gapology and MBAR in that. Um,
Yeah.
they definitely had lower screen time,
Hmm.
no doubt about that. And all of that culminated in an increased focus. So they truly had a focus around their 168. What am I going to accomplish this week? And because of that, they did that and they were, incredibly successful and could outperform the rest of the group substantially.
It's interesting. I immediately wrote down increased focus. I think this could be our topic next week, even when we
Okay.
do the next one. When we talk about focus, I think that is so important. Creating a habit around focus. So, how do you do that? What are some skills there? Because I do think that those underperformers, those underperforming leaders, they didn't have a focus. They sort of just were in firefighting mode, reactionary mode. I don't think they focused in on things that mattered most, and team development, all those things. So I do think, the 168, taking that and blocking out time, regular time in your schedule, we call this leadership rhythm, blocking this out for these things that you need to really focus in on.
Yeah, very true. Very true. So the other thing that was gigantic for us was the habit ladder. So we found the habit ladder, and wrote about it in Gapology. And it has impacted many organizations, and it's very real. It works every time, kind of thing. And we discovered it by comparing the A group with the C group, the top 10% with the bottom 10%. And we found that the A group, despite the fact that they hadn't read about the habit ladder, because it hadn't been written about until Gapology, they literally had a ladder that created great results and great habits in their team. And it started with, let's say you were rolling out a new process. So they would communicate that process. The big gap here became they would verify understanding of that communication. The C group would not. They would say, I told you, we talked about it, but they wouldn't verify understanding. People learn at different speeds and different levels. You have to verify they understood what you just said. You're not always clear, right? Not everyone understands at the same speed and level. Right. So from communication of this new process, you have to verify the team understood it. Some of the top leaders did testing. They would test the group to see. Either way, you have to verify it. They then did a step that the top group did a step that the C group never thought of, and that was to ask for agreement on executing this new process. Are you in? Are you committed to this? Do I have your agreement? That was huge. None of the other groups we dealt with had even thought of that. And then from there, you're still not perfect at this new process. So they did practice and feedback, practice and feedback. So the leaders observed the team executing. Practice and feedback, practice and feedback. And we found that the top performers often were not the first ones there. They were the ones that it took time with, but then they become great at it. And that created habit. So again, it was communication. It was verifying the understanding of that communication. It was asking for agreement on that communication. Again, maybe a new process, whatever. And then practice, feedback, and then habit. It simply works. And so as a leader, if you haven't read Gapology, you need to read it, and you need to read about the habit ladder because it's of great significance. But our point today would be that habits are what create greatness. So as a leader, you need to have habits. You need to be on purpose about that. You need to think about it. You need to design it. And we've found that it works.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's probably a good place to leave it, Mark. If anybody has questions on this stuff, certainly pick up the book. But feel free to reach out to us as well. Our email address, contact@gapology.org. Contact@gapology.org. Reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Love to engage in a conversation. But if you need any other help, just visit our website as well, gapology.org. But thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep,
great job.
All right, you too. We'll talk to you soon.
See you soon.
Yep, bye. All right, that'll do it from here. For more information on Gapology, head on over to our website, gapology.org. Everyone have a fantastic week. We'll talk to you soon.